So we're focusing on 2022, of course. Our aim is to break down as many teams as possible in our fall camp kickoff series here. We appreciate Andrew Hattersley being here, always breaking down the Aggies for us. But we want to look forward to 2023. Obviously, a lot happening there, and Andrew just ran down a brief overview of what has happened in recruiting, and of course, on paper, the best recruiting class of all time in 2022. So people might be shocked if they look at the 23 commits. Most teams right now, as you well know, you're a recruiting guy, are in that 12 to 15 to 18 commit range. And Texas A&M sitting at 6 hard commits and 58th in the country, according to your 247 Sports rankings.
Yeah. This is a question we've kind of tackled a lot of this month. And there's a couple of ways to look at it. One, I think, it's not ideal when targets like Malik Muhammad and Jonte Cook, head to Texas. I think those are two guys that A&M certainly would have loved to have. Jonte Cook was a guy that Texas has led for quite a while, so that wasn't necessarily a surprise. And once they got Arch Manning, I think that pretty much closed the book on A&M getting Jonte Cook. Malik Muhammad, I think, is probably one that would kind of have the feeling of one that got away a little bit. A&M kind of led for him in the spring, and then Texas kind of surged there the past month or two. Same could be said, for there's been some momentum for Darian Gillette. Another target that I think A&M kind of led for in the spring and now needs to kind of get some momentum. But the point I would make too, as well, is A&M's is this going to be a year that A&M signs the number one class? Probably not. Is this going to probably be a top 5 class? Probably not. But I think A&M in this cycle is going to probably look to take 20 to 22 guys, and so I still think that A&M, when all is said and done at the end of the year, will be right around a top 10 class. Whether they break through and do get a top 10 class remains to be seen, but I at least think they'll be right around there. And the quality of commits is certainly there. I think that's one thing to look at. The commit average at this point in the season, is well over 90. I think with the recent additions, if I look right now, their average rating is a 92.8 or 92.08, which would be which is good which is only below Alabama and Georgia. And so you look at the commit quality that they've got so far, I think they certainly match up on that side, and some big targets still on the board. They just need to close on them, frankly. Anthony Hill's a guy that's the number one linebacker in the country. A&M will have him on campus this weekend. That feels like a line in the sand type of recruitment. It's down to A&M and Texas. And so if they start losing guys like him and David Hicks, who's another big target, not going to make a decision until the Under Armour All-America game, I think then you can start to have some concern. But I would just remind people that the level that Jimbo Fisher has recruited at the past couple of years, there's been some boldness predictions. I think Josh Payton, who works on 24/7, somebody had one saying that A&M was going to finish outside of the 60th class in the country. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's an extremely bold prediction at this point in the year, and there's still quite a bit of time to go, and so I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of panic. Another guy that A&M seems to be training well with is Ramir Stewart. He's a 4-star safety out of the East Coast. Could get him. TJ Shanahan's another guy that A&M seems to be in a good spot for, another 4-star. Battling it out for Austin Novosad. I think getting a quarterback in this class is really, really important, and that's kind of the big one. Battling Baylor, Notre Dame, and Ohio State for him. And so I don't think it's quite time to hit the panic button yet, but I think there's certainly a sense of urgency around the staff and the program to generate some momentum heading into the latter portion of July. And I know we were going to touch on this, Mark. I think that's why, just getting a commitment from Chase Bisontis, the offensive lineman out of Don Bosco Prep, was so so big to close out the month and kind of get that top 100 prospect and get back on the board and get rolling and go from there. I think that's what really made that one so big.
If you had a chance to look at Bisontis, did you track him at all?
Yeah, so he's a guy I would say for any A&M fans out there, if you're looking for some fun film to watch, he's certainly got it. He's got about 9 minutes of just pancaking people, whether it's in pass block or run block. Just a mean, like nasty lineman that kind of seems to fit perfectly with the Steve Adazio, tough minded kind of mean, nasty type of approach as well. I think it's almost a match made in heaven between those two, and it's an interesting because it's a guy that A&M, really wasn't there wasn't a ton of buzz for him until April or May when he locked in his official visit to A&M in June, and really clicked right away with Steve Adazio. The two of them being from the East Coast, really clicked on that front. Steve Adazio has some ties on the East Coast, and so he's a guy I think A&M really started to search for over the last couple of weeks. Came down to A&M and Rutgers, who fought hard to keep him in their backyard, and really a guy they wanted to keep home. But the connections to Steve Adazio and really, I think the way the two of them kind of connected mindset wise was what ultimately made the difference. But just a huge addition for A&M on the offensive line.
It's an interesting recruiting battle, not one that Texas A&M wages very often. It's typically LSU,
The Michigan
Alabama,
State,
Ohio State coming down. Yeah, I saw Michigan State on the board. They were close.
Yeah.
But Rutgers in particular, the final pitch could be, do you want to stay home? I get that. You want to stay home possibly, but you want to play in front of 27,000 people every week on the Big Ten network, or do you want to play at Texas?
Exactly. And so I think that was certainly kind of the pitch. That was certainly the pitch is, do you want to play in front of, the 100,000s and play at Kyle Field or stay at home? And, Rutgers has certainly pushed to keep a lot of guys close to home. And, but I think ultimately the success Steve Adazio has had putting guys into the NFL was kind of what made the difference in the end. And again, just a really important addition momentum wise for A&M to get him in right before a big recruiting weekend.